One moment of courage can change everything, but for Nathan, saving a life leads to a discovery he never expected. Central City, December 20th, 2017. A metropolis of towering skyscrapers and flashing neon signs, where the wealthy indulge in excess, and the forgotten struggle to exist in the shadows. The streets are alive with movement, cars speeding down wide avenues, pedestrians rushing through crosswalks, their faces buried in scarves against the biting cold. Among them, unnoticed and unseen, is Nathan. Nathan is 12 years old. He is small for his age, his clothes tattered and barely holding together. The chill of winter cuts through the thin fabric, but he has long since grown used to the numbing cold. He lives beneath a steel bridge, a forgotten corner of the city, where broken bottles and discarded newspapers are his only company. To the world, he is invisible, just another piece of the urban landscape that people choose to ignore. His biggest dream is simple: a warm burger. He has never tasted one, never felt the soft texture of a bun in his hands, or the rich, savory flavor of meat on his tongue. Each day, he watches others devour steaming meals from fast food joints, their laughter filling the air, their lives so far removed from his own. His stomach twists with hunger, but he has learned not to expect kindness from strangers. Most people avert their eyes, quickening their pace as they pass him by. To acknowledge him would mean confronting the reality of his existence, and that is something few are willing to do. Begging has become his daily routine, standing outside convenience stores, hoping someone will spare him a few coins. Sometimes, if luck is on his side, a kind soul will offer him a half-eaten sandwich or a cup of lukewarm coffee. Other times, he receives nothing but harsh words and disapproving glances. Still, he persists, because the alternative is starving. The city is decorated for the holidays. Strings of glowing lights hang from storefronts, their soft radiance contrasting with the cold steel of the buildings. Christmas trees stand proudly in shop windows, adorned with ornaments and ribbons, promising warmth and joy to those who can afford it. Nathan has never had a Christmas. The idea of gifts and celebration is as distant to him as the stars in the sky. As the sun begins to set, the temperature drops further, and Nathan wraps his arms around himself, seeking whatever warmth he can find. He knows the night will be long, the darkness stretching endlessly before him. But he also knows he has survived worse. This city may not see him, but he exists. And as long as he breathes, he will keep fighting. He watches people rushing past, their faces lit by the glow of their phone screens. They walk quickly, heading toward homes filled with warmth, laughter, and family. He wonders what it feels like to have a home, to have someone waiting for you at the end of the day. The thought lingers in his mind, a painful reminder of what he has never known. He shuffles his feet, rubbing his hands together to create some friction against the bitter cold. His fingers are stiff, almost frozen, but he refuses to give in to the numbness creeping through his limbs. A gust of wind howls through the bridge, rattling the rusted metal above him. He pulls his thin jacket tighter around himself, knowing it will do little to shield him from the elements. His stomach growls again, an empty ache gnawing at his insides. He glances at a trash can a few feet away, wondering if it is worth searching through. Sometimes, if he's lucky, he finds leftover scraps, cold fries, half-eaten sandwiches, even a discarded drink with a few sips left. It is not much, but hunger has taught him not to be picky. One moment of courage can change everything. For Nathan, that moment is coming, and when it does, it will lead him to a discovery he never expected. If you had nothing, what's the one thing you'd wish for? Where are you watching from? And what time is it? Central City glows with the warmth of holiday festivities. Snowflakes drift lazily through the air, illuminated by the twinkling Christmas lights that adorn every building, every tree. The streets are filled with the sound of carolers, laughter, and the distant hum of traffic. Shops display lavish holiday decorations, their windows frosted with intricate patterns of ice. The scent of roasted chestnuts and spiced cider lingers in the air, mixing with the crisp winter chill. Amidst the merriment, a grand wedding unfolds on the steel bridge that spans the heart of the city. The bride, Emily Carter, stands beneath a canopy of shimmering fairy lights, her ivory gown cascading around her like a cloud. She is the picture of perfection, her golden curls pinned with delicate pearls, her cheeks flushed with excitement. The guests, dressed in their finest attire, hold glasses of champagne, their laughter blending with the soft strains of a string quartet. Nathan watches from the shadows beneath the bridge. His breath rises in wisps before him, his fingers numb from the cold, as he clutches his threadbare coat tighter. He has never seen a wedding before, not like this. The elegance, the joy, the sheer magic of it all. It is something from a world he does not belong to. Yet for a moment, he allows himself to imagine. Imagine that he is part of it, that he is not just a boy in rags watching from afar. Emily steps toward the edge of the bridge, drawn by the breathtaking view of the cityscape. The skyline shimmers, the river below reflecting the glow of 1,000 twinkling lights. She exhales softly, lost in the beauty of the moment. But then her foot catches on the hem of her gown. The fabric snags beneath her heel. She gasps as she stumbles forward. The railing is slick with ice. A sharp cry pierces the air as Emily slips. Her hands grasp at nothing but cold wind as she tumbles over the side. A collective gasp ripples through the wedding guests, their joyous chatter replaced by a stunned silence. For a heartbeat, the world seems frozen in time. Nathan does not think. He moves. His legs propel him forward before fear has a chance to take hold. He dashes from the shadows, his bare feet slipping on the icy pavement as he races toward the railing. His pulse pounds in his ears, louder than the horrified screams echoing through the night. Without hesitation, he reaches the edge, his eyes locking onto Emily's terrified face as she clings to the metal beams beneath the bridge. Her fingers are slipping. Nathan drops to his knees, his small hands gripping the frozen steel as he leans over. He sees the terror in her eyes, the silent plea for help. The wind howls around them, the river below dark and unyielding. He stretches his arm as far as he can, his fingers barely brushing hers. "Hold on," he shouts, his voice raw with urgency. Emily tries, but her grip falters. Her breath comes in sharp gasps, her arms trembling with the effort. The cold is stealing her strength. Nathan's heart pounds as he inches closer, ignoring the sting of ice against his skin. He cannot let go. He will not let go. With one final surge of determination, he grasps her wrist and pulls. Pain shoots through his arms as he strains with everything he has. Inch by inch, he drags her upward, his muscles burning from the effort. The guests above watch in stunned silence, their shock rendering them motionless. Would you risk everything to save a stranger? Nathan sprints forward, his breath coming in ragged gasps, his heart pounding so hard he can hear it in his ears. The world around him blurs, the flashing lights, the stunned faces, the distant hum of holiday music still playing somewhere in the background. None of it matters. All he sees is the woman dangling over the edge of the bridge, her terrified eyes locked onto his, her fingers slipping inch by inch from the icy railing. Below her, the river churns, dark and merciless. The cold wind howls through the steel beams, a cruel reminder of how unforgiving the fall would be. The wedding guests scream, but no one moves. They stand frozen in horror, their champagne glasses slipping from numb fingers, their perfectly rehearsed evening shattered in a single instant. Nathan does not stop. He does not hesitate. He throws himself onto the ground, his chest hitting the frozen surface as he lunges forward. His fingers latch onto Emily's wrists just as her grip fails. A strangled gasp escapes her lips as her full weight jerks against his small frame. The sudden force nearly rips him forward, nearly sends him over with her, but he digs his heels into the ground, his arms burning as he strains to hold on. "Hold on!" he shouts, his voice raw and desperate. Emily's breath is coming in sharp, panicked gasps. Her wedding dress is soaked with ice and clings to her like a heavy anchor. Her fingers scramble for a better grip, her nails digging into Nathan's skin as she fights against gravity. Nathan grits his teeth, his muscles screaming in protest. The metal railing beneath his chest is biting into his ribs, but he tightens his grip. He refuses to let go. Above them, the guests murmur, their shock finally breaking. A man in a tuxedo stumbles forward. A woman clutches her chest. Someone calls for help, but the bridge is slick, and no one dares to move too fast. Nathan knows he cannot wait for them. Emily's hands are shaking. Her strength is failing. He summons every ounce of energy in his small body and pulls. His arms tremble. His breath comes in short, sharp bursts, but he does not stop. Inch by inch, he drags her upward until finally, with one last desperate heave, she tumbles onto the bridge beside him. They collapse onto the icy pavement, both breathless. The world tilts for a moment, the adrenaline surging through Nathan's veins, making everything feel surreal. His fingers are stiff with cold, his body aching from the effort, but he does not care. She is safe. Emily stares at him, her chest rising and falling, her lips parted in shock. You saved me," she breathes, barely above a whisper. Nathan does not know what to say. He simply nods, his own breath still uneven, his mind still reeling from what just happened. The crowd remains silent for a long, stretched-out moment. Then, like a wave breaking, murmurs ripple through the guests. "Who is that boy? Where did he come from? Did you see what he just did?" A camera flashes. Someone steps forward. The whispers grow louder, the weight of 100 eyes pressing down on Nathan as he sits there shivering, his pulse still racing. For the first time in his life, Nathan is not invisible. Have you ever acted before thinking? What happened? Let's talk. The murmurs spread like wildfire through the stunned wedding guests. Cameras flash, voices rise, but Nathan remains on the frozen pavement, his breath still heavy, his limbs aching. He is cold, exhausted, and unsure of what happens next. Then, footsteps. A man pushes through the crowd, moving with sharp, purposeful strides. His designer suit is pristine, untouched by the chaos. His tie is perfectly in place, his shoes polished to a mirror shine. He kneels beside Emily, his strong arms pulling her close. Relief flashes in his piercing blue eyes before they shift, before they land on Nathan. The weight of his gaze is crushing. "Who are you?" the man demands, his voice low but firm. "Where did you come from?" Nathan shivers under the intensity of his stare. The warmth of adrenaline is fading, leaving only the sharp bite of winter and the growing sense that he does not belong here. His throat is dry. His hands tremble as he pulls his thin jacket tighter around himself. I was just watching the wedding," he stammers, his voice barely above a whisper. The man's eyes narrow. His jaw tightens. He glances down, his gaze scanning Nathan's ragged clothes, his dirt-streaked face, his too-thin frame. Something shifts in his expression. Curiosity, suspicion, something Nathan cannot quite read. "You're homeless, aren't you?" the man says, not as a question, but as a fact. Nathan flinches. The word stings, not because it is untrue, but because of the way it is said. He feels small again, invisible, like he has been ripped from the moment he mattered and tossed back into the shadows where he belongs. Emily, still shaking, touches her husband's arm. "Ryan, stop." But Ryan does not stop. His gaze remains fixed on Nathan, sharp and assessing. "Why were you here? Were you looking for something?" His voice is calm, but there is something underneath, something Nathan has heard before. The kind of tone people use when they think he is dangerous, when they assume the worst before they even know him. I didn't. Nathan struggles for words. The bridge, the cold, the fear pressing into his chest. It is too much. "I just saw her fall, and you what?" Ryan interrupts. His voice is clipped, measured. "Thought you'd be a hero." The words cut deeper than Nathan expects. He swallows hard, his fingers curling into fists in his lap. He does not know what to say. He does not know how to explain that he was not thinking, that he just acted, that he did not expect anyone to care about who he was or where he came from. A hush lingers between them. The wedding guests whisper among themselves, their eyes darting between Nathan and Ryan. The air is thick with tension, with something unspoken. Then Emily reaches for Nathan's hand. Her fingers are cold, shaking, but her touch is gentle. "You saved my life," she says softly, her voice cutting through the murmurs, the doubts, the assumptions. "Thank you." Nathan blinks at her, surprised. He opens his mouth, but no words come. No one has ever looked at him the way she is looking at him now, as if he is more than the sum of his circumstances, as if he is someone worth seeing. Ryan exhales sharply. His grip on his wife tightens for a moment before he rises to his feet, adjusting the cuffs of his jacket. "We need to get you warm," he says to Emily, but his eyes flicker back to Nathan, unreadable once more. "And you?" Nathan braces himself. The silence stretches as Ryan studies him, his expression unreadable. The guests murmur, unsure of what will happen next. Nathan shifts on his feet, the cold pressing in, reminding him of where he stands, of who he is. Then Ryan finally speaks again, his voice measured, controlled. "You're coming with us." The words hang in the air, a statement, not a request. A few gasps ripple through the crowd. Emily's brows knit together, but she says nothing. Nathan hesitates. He has never been invited anywhere, never been given an option beyond survival. The city has always turned its back on him. "Come on," Ryan adds, softer this time, his expression shifting just slightly. "You saved my wife. Let me at least do something for you." Nathan glances between them. Emily's face is open, kind, her gratitude clear. Ryan's face is harder to read, but something about the way he stands, the way his fingers press into his palm, makes Nathan wonder if this is more than obligation. He swallows, shivers, and finally nods. For the first time in his life, someone is offering him something without expecting anything in return, and for the first time, he dares to take it. Why do some people judge based on appearance? The city hums softly beneath the bridge, its twinkling lights reflecting in the dark river below. Nathan huddles against the cold steel beams, pulling his thin jacket tighter around his frail frame. The wedding feels like a distant memory now. Just another moment in time that was never meant for him. His breath curls into the air in wisps of frost as he stares at the water, his mind too tired to process what had happened. Then, the sound of tires crunching over gravel. Nathan tenses. A sleek black car rolls to a stop near the bridge. Its glossy surface reflects the city's golden glow, its tinted windows hiding whoever is inside. The door swings open, and a figure steps out. Ryan Carter. Nathan's pulse quickens. Was he in trouble? Had he done something wrong? His fingers tighten around the fabric of his sleeves, his heart hammering in his chest as Ryan strides toward him. For a long moment, there's only silence. Then, Ryan reaches into his coat pocket and pulls out an envelope. He holds it out, his expression unreadable. "You saved my wife. This is my way of saying thank you." Nathan hesitates, staring at the envelope as if it might disappear. His fingers are stiff from the cold as he reaches for it, the paper smooth beneath his fingertips. Slowly, he opens it. His breath catches in his throat. Inside is cash. Stacks of it. $10,000. Nathan's hands shake. It is more money than he has ever seen in his entire life. More than he could have ever imagined holding. His chest tightens, a storm of emotions crashing over him all at once. I don't deserve this," he whispers, his voice barely audible. Ryan watches him closely, his sharp eyes searching Nathan's face for something. Understanding, disbelief, maybe even fear. But he does not take the envelope back. "That's not for you to decide," Ryan says simply. Nathan swallows hard, the weight of the money heavy in his hands. His stomach churns. He has spent his life with nothing, surviving on scraps, invisible to the world. And now, in an instant, someone is offering him a way out. A fortune, by his standards. But why? What does Ryan Carter see in him that no one else ever has? Then, Ryan takes a step closer, lowering his voice. "I know who you are, Nathan, and I know what happened to your family." The words hit harder than the cold ever could. Nathan's body goes rigid. His breath catches, his eyes widening as he looks up at Ryan in shock. No one knows about his past. No one remembers. The world moved on and left him behind, and he accepted that a long time ago. But Ryan Carter did not forget. Nathan's fingers tighten around the envelope, his mind racing. This was not just about money. It was about something bigger, something he never saw coming. His heart pounds against his ribs, a mixture of fear and confusion creeping in. "What do you mean?" he asks, his voice barely above a whisper. Ryan exhales, his expression unreadable. "Your parents, your past. It wasn't an accident." Nathan's stomach drops. The air suddenly feels thinner, the cold biting deeper than before. His thoughts spin, memories he buried long ago scratching at the surface of his mind. "How do you know that?" Nathan's voice is hoarse, barely able to contain the emotions threatening to break free. Ryan hesitates, then speaks carefully. "Because I was there, and because I've been looking for you ever since." Nathan's breath catches. His hands clench around the envelope, his fingers digging into the paper. A part of him wants to run, to disappear into the night like he always has. But another part, the part that has spent years longing for answers, refuses to move. The city continues to hum around them, oblivious to the moment unfolding beneath the bridge. But for Nathan, everything has changed. And for the first time in years, he is afraid of the answers waiting for him. What would you do if someone offered you a fortune? Would you take it? The wind howls through the steel beams of the bridge, rattling the loose metal sheets that line its underbelly. Nathan grips the envelope tightly, his fingers trembling, his breath coming in short, uneven bursts. The weight of Ryan Carter's words hangs in the cold night air, suffocating, inescapable. Your parents, your past, it wasn't an accident. Nathan shakes his head, his chest tightening. You're lying. Ryan's expression doesn't change. He doesn't falter. I have proof. Nathan's pulse pounds in his ears. Proof. Proof of what? That the life he had convinced himself was lost forever wasn't just taken by circumstance, but by something, someone deliberate. He swallows hard, his voice barely above a whisper. What are you talking about? Ryan takes a slow step forward. Your family didn't abandon you, they were taken. The words hit like a punch to the gut. Nathan stumbles back, his feet slipping slightly against the damp pavement. He had spent years believing they left him, years trying to push away the ache of their absence, trying to survive without them. The idea that they were stolen from him, ripped away, is almost too much to process. No, Nathan mutters, shaking his head again, as if denial will make it untrue. That doesn't make sense. Ryan exhales sharply, running a hand over his jaw. He looks down, as if choosing his next words carefully. Victor Kane. Nathan freezes. A name he has never heard before, yet somehow it sends ice crawling up his spine. Ryan watches him closely. He's the man responsible for your family's disappearance, a powerful criminal, one of the worst this city has ever seen. He made them vanish years ago, and no one questioned it. No one even looked. Until now. Nathan's breath catches in his throat. His mind reels, trying to process it all, trying to force the pieces of the puzzle together. Why? Why would someone do that? Ryan hesitates, then finally says, because your father was working against him. Nathan stares at him, his body numb to the cold. His father. He barely remembers his face, only flashes of a deep voice, warm hands ruffling his hair, the vague sense of safety he once knew. Now all of that is being reshaped, rewritten into something darker, something dangerous. He was trying to take Caney down. Ryan continues, his voice steady. And Caney made sure that never happened. He didn't just ruin your family, he erased them. And he would have erased you too, if you hadn't disappeared first. Nathan's stomach twists violently. A sickening wave of fear crashes over him, but beneath it, something else begins to stir. A spark, deep in his chest. A need to know more. A need for truth. He looks down at the envelope still clutched in his hand. $10,000. A fortune to him. A sum that could change his life forever. But now, it feels like a test. A bribe. A warning. Ryan watches him, then takes another step forward, his voice quieter now, almost cautious. If you want answers, come with me. Nathan's fingers tighten around the envelope. The night feels heavier now, the city pressing in around him, urging him to decide. Walk away and keep running, keep surviving the only way he knows how. Or step into the unknown, risk everything, and finally uncover the truth. He exhales slowly, his breath fogging in the cold air. He has spent his life invisible, surviving in the shadows. But for the first time, someone is giving him a choice. And for the first time, he isn't sure which path to take. Nathan's fingers tighten around the envelope. The weight of it is nothing compared to the weight of Ryan's words. His family wasn't lost. They were taken. And the man responsible was still out there, living free while Nathan spent his childhood in the shadows. The thought makes his stomach twist. He looks up at Ryan, searching for something in his expression. Doubt. Deception. A sign that this is just another cruel trick the world has played on him. But Ryan's face is unreadable. He waits, patient, letting Nathan make the choice. Nathan exhales, his breath curling in the frigid air. He could run. It's what he's always done. But something inside him has shifted. The past isn't just something to escape anymore. It's something to fight for. Okay, Nathan says finally, his voice steady. I'll go with you. Ryan nods as if he expected nothing less. Then let's get started. The next few weeks are a blur of movement. Nathan follows Ryan through back alleys, hidden offices, and whispered meetings with people who speak in half-truths and coded words. They dig into the past, peeling back layers of corruption tied to Victor Kane. Ryan has resources, connections Nathan never dreamed of. But even with all that, the answers don't come easy. Every step forward brings new danger. Shadows linger at the edges of their journey, men watching from cars that vanish the moment Ryan gets too close, warnings left on hotel doors in the dead of night. Kaney's empire isn't just powerful, it's protected. Nathan learns quickly. He listens, absorbs every detail Ryan shares about the criminal world. He stops being just a kid tagging along. He becomes part of the fight, a silent force determined to uncover the truth. One night, they track down an old informant, a man with a trembling voice and haunted eyes. He refuses to speak at first, but when Ryan presses, when Nathan steps forward, something changes. The man looks at him, really looks at him, and his face pales. "You're his son," the man mutters under his breath. "You're supposed to be dead." The words chill Nathan to the bone, but he forces himself to stay still. He doesn't back down. "Where is my family?" he demands, his voice stronger than he expected. The man hesitates. Then he gives them a name, a place, a lead. It's the closest Nathan has ever been to the truth. As Christmas approaches, Nathan stands at a crossroads. The city is alive with holiday cheer, bright lights, festive music, the smell of roasted chestnuts in the air. The same city that ignored him now moves past him, unaware of the war he is fighting. He has money now, a way out, a chance to leave behind the pain and struggle, to start over. But he knows he won't take it. Not yet. Not until he finds his family. Ryan watches him carefully one evening as they stand on a rooftop overlooking the city. "You don't have to do this," he says. "You could walk away, start fresh." Nathan shakes his head. "I saved Emily," he says quietly, his breath fogging in the cold air. "But now, I have to save myself." He turns back toward the city, the skyline stretching endlessly before him. Somewhere out there, his family is waiting. And no matter how dangerous the path ahead, Nathan won't stop until he brings them home. What's the biggest lesson from Nathan's journey? Let's discuss